My name is Robert. I am 62 years old. For most of my life, I believed I understood my wife completely. We met young. We built a quiet life together, a small house, 2 grown children, a garden Alice loved more than anything. People often said we were lucky. A calm marriage. A peaceful home. I believed that too. Alice was gentle. She had a soft laugh and a way of making any room feel warm. Even after 40 years, I still looked forward to seeing her face across the breakfast table. But lately, something felt different. It started small. She would sit by the window in the evenings, holding her tea, saying nothing. When I asked what she was thinking about, she would smile and say, "Just old memories." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Sometimes I noticed her holding her phone a little too carefully, turning it away when I walked into the room. I told myself it was nothing. Everyone has private moments. Everyone needs quiet sometimes. Still, there were nights I watched her from across the bed, awake long after she thought I was asleep, staring at the ceiling. Her eyes looked far away, like she was somewhere else entirely, somewhere I couldn't follow. I never asked the hard questions. Maybe I was afraid of what she might say. Maybe some part of me already sensed that our peaceful life was not as simple as it looked. One evening, I came home and the house felt too quiet. Not the comfortable quiet we were used to. A different kind. A heavier kind. I called her name. There was no answer. And on the kitchen table, where she always left her reading glasses, there was something else instead, something I had never seen before. An envelope. With my name written on it, in her handwriting. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the envelope. My name, written slowly, carefully, like she had thought about every letter. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I walked through the house, calling her name again. The bedroom was empty. The garden was empty. Even her coat was gone from the hook by the door. Something told me to check the attic. I don't know why. Maybe instinct. Maybe years of knowing someone teaches you where their secrets live. Behind old winter blankets, I found a small suitcase. Not one I recognized. It wasn't hidden well, almost like she wanted it to be found eventually, just not yet. Inside was a baby blanket, soft and faded. A photograph of a much younger Alice, holding a newborn. A silver bracelet, small enough for a child's wrist. And a hospital tag, the ink almost gone. Beneath them, a handful of letters, addressed to a name I had never heard. My hands felt cold as I held the bracelet. Whoever this baby was, Alice had kept him close for decades, just never close enough for me to see. Who was this child? Why had she never mentioned him? How long had this been going on? Weeks, months, years? I thought about our quiet evenings together, her staring out the window, her phone turned carefully away. Suddenly those small moments felt different. Heavier. Like pieces of something I had never let myself see clearly. I carried the suitcase, along with the envelope, back to the kitchen table. Whatever Alice needed to tell me, it was time to read it. I sat down at the kitchen table, the envelope in my hands. My heart was beating faster than I expected. I turned it over once, twice, as if that would somehow prepare me for what was inside. Finally, I opened it. The paper was soft, like she had folded and unfolded it many times before deciding to leave it for me. Her handwriting filled the page, steady at first, then slightly shaking toward the bottom, as if her hand had grown tired or afraid. "Robert," it began. "I don't know how to say this out loud, so I'm writing it instead." I stopped for a moment. Those words alone felt like a door opening onto something I wasn't ready for. There is something I have carried for a very long time. Something that happened before you and I ever met. I always meant to tell you. I just never found the courage. My chest tightened. Before we met, I tried to think back to those early years, searching for anything she might have hidden. Nothing came to mind. We had talked about everything, our families, our childhoods, our small disappointments. Or so I believed. I was young, Robert. Younger than you can probably imagine me being. And I made a decision back then that changed the rest of my life. A decision I never told you about, because I was afraid of how you would see me. I read the sentence again, slower this time. A decision. Not a person, not yet, a choice. Something she had lived with silently, year after year, sitting beside me at breakfast, walking beside me in the garden. I took a breath and turned to the next line, my hands unsteady now. Whatever this decision was, I could feel it was about to change everything I understood about the woman I loved. I forced myself to keep reading. Before I met you, I had a son. The words sat on the page like something too heavy to be true. I read them again, certain I had misunderstood. But they didn't change. I was 19. Alone, frightened, and not ready to raise a child. My family made the decision for me, more than I made it myself. I gave him up for adoption. I never held him longer than a single afternoon in the hospital before he was taken to his new family. My hands were trembling now. I had never known this. Not a hint, not a slip of the tongue, not a quiet mention on a hard anniversary. She had carried this alone, silently, through every year we built together. I told myself I would forget. I told myself that starting a new life with you meant leaving that part of me behind. And for a long time, Robert, I believed I had. I thought of all our quiet evenings, her staring out the window with that faraway look. Not old memories, like she always said. This memory. The one she never let me see. But a mother doesn't forget. Not really. I thought about him on every birthday, every winter, every time I saw a young man who might have been his age. I carried him quietly, in a place I never let you visit. I lowered the letter for a moment, staring at nothing. All those years, I had believed I knew every corner of her heart. I hadn't. There had been a room in her I never even knew existed. I picked the letter back up. My eyes moved to the next line, and my breath caught in my throat. 6 years ago, Robert, everything changed. He found me. I read the line again. He found me. My mind raced backward, searching for any sign, any small crack in our life together over the past 6 years. I couldn't find one. She had hidden this so completely that our days had felt exactly the same as always: breakfast, the garden, quiet evenings by the window. All of it, apparently, sitting on top of something enormous. He wrote to me first. Just a short letter, asking if I was the woman he thought I was. I remember holding it in my hands for an hour before I could bring myself to open it. When I finally did, I cried for the first time in years. I thought about the letters inside the suitcase. Dozens of them, written over 6 years. I wrote back. I couldn't stop myself, Robert. I know I should have told you that day. I should have shown you his letter and let you into this part of my life. But I was afraid. Afraid you would see me differently. Afraid you would wonder what else I had never told you. I felt something twist in my chest, not quite anger, not quite grief. Something closer to disbelief, like the ground beneath our marriage had quietly shifted without my noticing. So instead, I kept it separate. A part of my life just for him, and a part of my life just for you. I told myself it wasn't a lie. It was only a silence. But I understand now that silence can be its own kind of lie. My throat tightened as I read the next words, and I already knew, somehow, that they would change everything again. Robert, he has asked me to come meet him. And I have decided to go. I stared at the words until they blurred slightly in front of me. I have decided to go. I looked up, as if some part of me expected Alice to be standing there, ready to explain everything in person. But the kitchen was empty. Just me, the letter, and the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the background. He lives several hours away, Robert. He has a family now, a wife, 2 children. He wants to know where he came from. He wants to know me, even after everything. And I want to know him too, before it's too late for either of us. I thought about the empty space in the attic where the suitcase used to sit, the coat gone from the hook by the door. She hadn't just decided. She had already left. I know this is not fair to you. You deserve to hear this from me, face to face, not read it alone in an empty kitchen. But I was afraid that if I told you, I would lose the courage to go at all. And I have waited long enough. My hands tightened around the paper. For 40 years, she had carried this pain alone. She had never let me share it with her. Not the fear, not the guilt, not the quiet hope she must have felt every time a new letter arrived. I don't know how long I will be gone. I don't know what will happen when I see him. But I know I cannot keep living with this silence between us. I have to face it, even if it means facing what it might do to us. I set the letter down for a moment, my chest aching in a way I didn't fully understand yet, not quite anger, not quite fear, but something dangerously close to both. Then I picked it up again, because I could see there were still a few lines left. The last lines of the letter were shorter, as if she had run out of words, or courage, or both. I love you, Robert. That has never been a lie. But loving you and carrying this secret were 2 things I never learned how to hold at the same time. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that. I hope, when I come home, you'll still want to hear the rest of this story from me, not just from a page. I set the letter down on the table and sat there for a long time, not moving. The house felt different now. Not just quiet, hollow, like something essential had been removed from it. At first, I felt nothing at all. Just a strange, heavy stillness, as if my mind hadn't caught up to what my eyes had read. Then, slowly, the feelings arrived, not in the order I expected. Not anger first. Grief. A grief for all the versions of Alice I had never known, the frightened 19-year-old, the mother writing letters in secret, the woman who sat beside me every night carrying a weight I never noticed. Then came the anger. She had never trusted me enough to share this. I thought of every quiet evening by the window, every time I had asked what are you thinking about and been told nothing, just old memories. Not nothing. Everything. I walked through the house again, touching things without really seeing them, her chair, her reading glasses, the garden gloves by the back door. Every object suddenly felt like it belonged to a woman I only partly knew. I didn't know if I was angry at her secret, or at the silence, or simply at how alone she must have felt for 6 long years. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. My voice came out quieter than I expected. Hello? There was a pause, then a voice, Alice's voice, but different. Tired. Careful. Robert. I didn't know if you'd pick up. I didn't answer right away. So many things filled my chest at once, relief that she was safe, anger at the silence, grief for everything I hadn't known. I finally said, I read your letter. Another pause, longer this time. I'm sorry. I should have told you in person. I was afraid. Afraid of what? I asked. That I wouldn't understand? Or that I would? She didn't answer that directly. Instead, she said, I met him, Robert. He looks like my father did, at that age. He has my mother's eyes. Her voice broke slightly. I don't expect you to understand everything right away. I just needed you to know the truth, finally, even if it's years too late. I sat with that for a moment, the anger slowly loosening its grip. You should have trusted me with this a long time ago, I said. Not because I would have judged you. Because you shouldn't have had to carry it alone. She was quiet, and I could hear her breathing, unsteady. I know that now, she said softly. I understand it too late to change the years already gone. But maybe not too late to change what comes next. I thought about the empty house, the suitcase of letters, the woman I thought I fully knew. There was still more to learn about her, and about myself. Come home, I said. Tell me the rest in person. All of it, this time. There was a small, relieved breath on the other end. I'm coming home, Robert. And I'll tell you everything. Alice came home 3 days later. I met her at the door, and for a long moment, neither of us said anything. We just stood there, two people who had shared a lifetime together, looking at each other like it was the first time in a while we were truly seeing one another. That night, she told me everything, not through a letter this time, but in her own voice, sitting across from me at the same kitchen table where I had first read her words. She told me about the fear she carried at 19, the guilt that never fully left her, and the quiet joy of finally meeting her son, now a grown man with children of his own. I won't pretend it was easy to hear. Some nights since then, I still feel a small ache when I think about the years she carried this alone, right beside me, without ever letting me in. But I've also come to understand something important. Alice didn't hide this because she didn't love me. She hid it because she was afraid love couldn't survive the truth. She learned, the hard way, that it was the silence, not the secret itself, that had grown heaviest over time. We talk about her son now. Slowly, carefully, but honestly. She's shown me his photograph. I've heard her speak his name out loud, something I don't think she'd done in front of anyone for years. Our marriage isn't the same as it was before I found that suitcase in the attic. In some ways, it's more fragile. But in other ways, it's stronger, because there's nothing left unspoken between us now. If I've learned anything from all of this, it's simple: the truth, even years late, is still worth telling. Because silence doesn't protect the people we love. It only postpones the pain and makes it heavier when it finally arrives. It's been almost a year now since that afternoon I found the suitcase in the attic. Alice and I still sit in the garden most evenings, the way we always have. But something between us has changed, quietly, permanently, for the better. Her son visits sometimes now. His name is Thomas. The first time he came to our house, Alice brought down the suitcase and set it on the table between them. She watched Thomas's hands shake as he touched the blanket, the bracelet, and the photograph he had never seen before. There was no hiding this time. Just a mother and son, finally allowed to know each other in the open. I won't say the hurt disappeared completely. Some evenings, I still think about the years I didn't know, the small suitcase kept quietly in our attic, the birthdays of her son that she remembered alone. But I've stopped asking why she waited so long. I understand now that fear can keep even the most loving people silent for far longer than makes sense from the outside. What I carry forward instead is something simpler. Alice taught me, without meaning to, that love isn't tested by the secrets we manage to avoid. It's tested by what happens when the truth finally arrives, whether we choose to walk away from it, or sit with it, however uncomfortable, and build something new from what's left. We are older now, Alice and I. Our life looks different than it did a year ago. But it's more honest than it has ever been, and I've come to believe that honesty, even painfully late, is worth more than a lifetime of comfortable silence. If there's one thing I'd want anyone listening to take from our story, it's this: don't wait for the right moment to speak the truth to someone you love. Sometimes, that moment never comes on its own. You have to choose it.